So you'll notice that I have my syrup getting down to almost syrup stage. This is after, like say 20 hours of boiling a pot like that I kept adding to a bit. When I'm all done with this batch, there will probably be like maybe 3 8-ounce ball jars of syrup, maybe 3.5. So that's a lot of syrup to make a little tiny bit of, a lot of water to make a little tiny bit of syrup. But here's what I was hoping to show you. As you see this is the last stages of the boiling down process. And I'm backing off because you see I barely have it boiling. I've already filtered off all of what I hoped was all of the precipitate. Filtered it a couple times. And still, when it settled out, I want to show you what I got out of the deal. This much nasty stuff right here. Do you see that stuff there? That is sugar sand or something like that, we call it. Look at that. That jar is almost full of the stuff that explodes. That sandy stuff in that jar friggin' explodes. I mean explodes. So, that's why people do this outdoors. This is how you cook maple syrup and risk your life indoors. I now have a screen thing over the top. That's supposed to help me. And I'm weighting it down with a pan. That's supposed to help me, according to me. And in there is the enemy. In there is the enemy. That's the maple syrup getting ready to be finished, but also, see it wanting to explode. I just thought you might like to see what explosions of maple syrup look like. Wait for it. Wait for it. We back away from the stove because you see that ceiling up there? See that fan up there? Those have all had syrup on them. I should put the camera on my face because in previous years that has been blasted. But no, not this year. I'm very cautious now. When I boil it down to the very, very last little bit of getting the water out of it, what you do is you boil it and boil it and boil it at 212. It boils at 212 and then it turns to steam, right? Water boils at 212. So even though if I have this on high, the hottest the liquid inside is going to be is 212, because if it's not 212, it's 213, and that means it's steam. But syrup, you have to boil it down until there's no more water, until it's just syrup, and that is like 218. Somewhere between 212 and 218 is where I stop, because if you get past 218, what you have is called maple candy, and about a minute after that you have what's called charcoal. So, I guess we're not going to see a major explosion, and you guys are lucky. But I thought maybe I could make it explode if I dare turn up the heat even one little notch. But I don't think you want to see it that bad, right? We'll give it one more chance to show you its secret explosive powers. And maybe I'll turn it up just a tad, just to give you a hint. One little tiny, teeny, tiny notch of heat addition. Let's just see what happens. Get ready. Wait for it. Wait for it. I'm getting scared now. She's backing away from the stove. Backing away from the stove. Show us what you got, baby. Okay, a little teeny tiny notch. Teeny tiny touch. Tiny, and now see, there's not supposed to be anything explosive in there, is my point. There's not supposed to be, because it's all supposed to be in there. But I don't believe it. I don't believe it. So let's just see. Oh, there we go. There's a little hint of what we can do. Now I'm going to reach over carefully to the stove and turn it down now that we've had a little example of the explosive power of the syrup. And now I'm going to stop the video. You saw it here first, people.